Hey guys, we are going to continue to look at factoring. Today we're going to look at factoring trinomials when a is greater than 1. We're going to answer the question, how do I factor trinomials with a leading coefficient that is greater than 1? So previously we looked at trinomials when a was 1, when we just had an x squared. Now we're going to look at whenever there is a number in front of that x squared. So the first thing that you want to do is always check for a GCF, just like every other time that we have factored. And then to factor trinomials in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, we need to find the two integers that add to b and multiply to ac. So we're not just going to multiply to the c term this time, we are going to multiply to whatever a times c is. Then after we figure out those two numbers, we're going to rewrite the polynomial by splitting this bx term up into two terms that we found in the previous step. So say you found the magic numbers to be 2 and 3, you would split it up into 2x and 3x. And now that you have four terms, you can factor by grouping. And as always, we can check our answer by distributing. So probably finding the numbers is going to be the hardest part. Once you get the process down, it won't be that hard, but you'll need to figure out what multiplies to a times c and adds to b. And then those two numbers, we're going to split the bx term up using those two numbers. Okay, so let's start with number 1. I don't have a GCF there, so I can jump straight to finding the magic numbers. So I want to figure out what multiplies to a times c. So 2 times 3 would be 6. And then what adds to 5. So what adds to 5 and multiplies to 6, that would be 2 and 3. So now I am going to split up the 5x term into 2x and 3x. So I will get 2x squared plus 2x plus 3x plus 3. And now that I have four terms, I can factor this by grouping. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's group this. The GCF of 2x squared plus 2x would be 2x. And then let's group this right here. 3x plus 3, the GCF of that would be 3. So I'm going to get 2x times 2x squared divided by 2x is x, and 2x divided by x is 1. And then the GCF of the next group was 3. 3x divided by 3 is x, and 3x divided by 3 is 1. And now I can factor out the common binomial. 2x plus 3, put that in one group. And then x plus 1 will be the second group. And there's my factored trinomial. And of course, you could check this by foiling or using the box method and making sure it equals 2x plus 5x plus 3, which it would. So we figured out what to split the 5x term up into. It was 2x plus 3x, and then we just factored it by grouping. Okay, let's look at this next one. I do not believe that there is a GCF of 7, 29, and 4, so I am good to figure out what I need to split that 29x up into. So first I need to figure out what multiplies to 7 times 4, which is 28, and adds to 29. And 7 times 4 is 28, but that's not going to work. 1 and 28 would add to 29 and multiply to 28. So now I'm going to split the 29x up into 1x plus 28x. So I'll get 7x squared plus 1x plus 28x plus 4. And now that I have four terms, I can factor this by grouping. So the GCF of this first group would be x, and 7x squared divided by x is 7x, and 1x divided by x is 1. GCF of the second group would be 4. 28x divided by 4 is 7x, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. So now I have those common binomials that I can factor out. So my two groups would be x plus 4 and 7x plus 1. All right, let's look at number 3. There's no GCF between 3x squared, 17x, and 20, so I can jump to trying to figure out what to split that negative 17x up into. So I need to figure out what multiplies to 3 times 20, which would be 60, and what adds to negative 17. So what adds to negative 17 and multiplies to 60? So I know it's going to have to be two negative numbers. I thought of negative 6 and negative 10 first, but that doesn't add to negative 17. Negative 12 and negative 5. Oh, that adds to negative 17. So those are the numbers, negative 12 and negative 5. Okay, so now I can split this negative 17x up into negative 12x and negative 5x. So I'm going to get 3x squared minus 12x minus 5x plus 20. I just split that negative 17x up into negative 12x and negative 5x. And now that it's 4 terms, I can factor this by grouping. So the GCF of this first group would be 3x. And then I'm left with 3x squared divided by 3x is x. And negative 12x divided by 3x is negative 4. Okay, notice my common binomial is an x minus 4, so it's a positive minus. Right now this group is a negative plus. I need to change it to be the opposite so the common binomials match. So I'm going to make sure that I factor out a negative, so the signs change, and the GCF would be negative 5. And then negative 5x divided by negative 5 is x, and 20 divided by negative 5 is negative 4. Okay, now I have my common binomials, so I can factor that out. So my final factored answer would be 3x minus 5 times x minus 4. All right, let's look at number 4, I do not see a GCF between 2x squared, 3x, and negative 9, so I can jump to figuring out what to split the negative 3x into. So 2 times negative 9 is negative 18. I need to figure out what multiplies to negative 18 and adds to negative 3, which I believe would be negative 6 and 3. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. Negative 6 plus 3 is 3. So now I can split the negative 3x up into negative 6x plus 3x. So my new polynomial will be 2x squared minus 6x plus 3x minus 9. And now I can factor by grouping. The GCF of 2x squared minus 6x would be 2x. And I'm left with x minus 3. And then the GCF of 3x minus 9 is 3. And 3x divided by 3 is x. Negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. So now I have the common factor. I can factor it out. So my two binomials are 2x plus 3 times x minus 3. All right, let's look at number 5. I have 6x squared plus 22x minus 8. So it looks like I do have a GCF. They all are divisible by 2. So I'm going to factor out a 2. And then I'm left with 3x squared plus 22x. Oh, now I have to factor out the 2 from there as well. So plus 11x. And then negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So now I am going to factor that. So I'm going to figure out what multiplies to 3 times negative 4, which is negative 12, and adds to 11. So I need a negative and a positive number to multiply to a negative. So I believe that would be 12 and negative 1. 12 times negative 1 is negative 12, and 12 plus negative 1 is 11. So now I can split my 11x term up into 12x minus 1x. So I get 2 times 3x squared plus 12x minus 1x minus 4. Okay, and now I can factor this by grouping. So GCF of 3x squared plus 12x would be 3x. So I get 2 times 3x, and then 3x squared divided by 3x is x, and then 12x divided by 3x is 4. Okay, notice my common binomial is all positive, but this second group is all negative, so I'm going to factor out a negative number so that my common binomials will match. And it looks like the numbers are correct, like it's just an x and a 4, which is what we have here. I just need to factor out that negative 1 to change those signs. So I'm going to factor out a negative 1, and then negative 1x divided by negative 1 is just x, and negative 4 divided by negative 1 is positive 4. Okay, now I have my common binomials, so I can factor those out, and my final factored answer is 2 times 3x minus 1 times x plus 4. Make sure you remember to put the GCF back in your final answer. That's why I just kept it there that whole time I was doing my work. All right, number 6, 32x squared minus 16x plus 2. I believe I have a GCF of 2 again. So I'm going to pull out the 2, and then I'm left with 16x squared minus 8x plus 1. So now I need to figure out what multiplies to 16 and adds to negative 8. So I need two negative numbers if I'm going to multiply to a positive and add to a negative, and I believe that would be negative 4 and negative 4. So the negative 8x term will split up into negative 4x and negative 4x. So I'll get 2 times 16x squared minus 4x minus 4x plus 1. And now I have the 4 terms, so I can factor by grouping. My GCF still stays out in front. The GCF of 16x squared minus 4x is 4x. 16x squared divided by 4x is 4x, and then negative 4x divided by 4x is negative 1. So my first binomial is 4x minus 1. This one is negative 4x plus 1. I just need to change those signs to make that common binomial the same, so I'm going to factor out a negative 1. And then I'm left with 4x minus 1, and then I have those common binomials. So I can write my final answer. Don't forget the GCF of 2, and then it's 4x minus 1 times 4x minus 1. So you can leave it like that, but if you notice, these binomials are the exact same. So there's a little bit more condensed way I can write that as 2 times 4x minus 1 squared. You will see it both ways. Okay, these last two, I have equations that I'm solving with an x squared, so I'm going to solve using the zero product property. So let's go through the steps for the zero product property. Remember, the first thing is I have to make sure that the equation is set equal to 0, which it is here. And then the second step, I have to factor. So I have 3 terms. I don't see a GCF, and then the leading coefficient is bigger than 1. So I'm going to figure out what multiplies to 2 times negative 18 and adds to 9. So 2 times negative 18 is negative 36 and adds to positive 9. So adds to negative, or multiplies to negative 36 and adds to 9 needs to be a positive and a negative number. I believe that would be 12 and negative 3. 12 times negative 3 is negative 36. 12 plus negative 3 is 9. So now I'm going to split the 9x up into 12x and negative 3x. So this will be 2x squared plus 12x minus 3x minus 18 equals 0. And now I have four terms, so I can factor by grouping. The GCF of 2x squared plus 12x is 2x, and the GCF of negative 3x minus 18 is negative 3. So I'll get 2x parentheses 2x squared divided by 2x is x, and 12x divided by 2x is 6. And then minus 3, negative 3x divided by negative 3 is x, and negative 18 divided by negative 3 is 6. And now I have the common binomials, so I get 2x minus 3 and x plus 6 as my factors. So remember, we're solving this equation. I set it equal to 0, I factored, and then the last step is to set each factor equal to 0. So let's go ahead and do that. My first factor is 2x minus 3. So I need to set 2x minus 3 equal to 0. And I would add 3 and get 2x equals 3 and then divide by 2. So x equals 3 halves, or 1.5. Okay, so there's the first solution, and then the second factor is x plus 6. I need to set that equal to 0. And I would just subtract 6 and get x equals negative 6. So now I have the two solutions, negative 6 and 3 halves. So I write them in curly brackets, negative 6 and 3 halves. Okay, number 8 says solve the equation. It has an x squared in it, so I'm going to use the zero product property. So let's go through these steps. The first step is to make sure that the equation is set equal to 0, which it is not, so let's go ahead and set it equal to 0. The easiest way to set it equal to 0 is going to be to add 17x to both sides. And when I write this, I'm going to make sure that I put the trinomial in standard form. So it'll be 4x squared plus 17x plus 15 equals 0, because now I can easily tell what a, b, and c are, since the next step is to factor. So I do not see a GCF between 4, 17, and 15, so I'm just going to set up the x and figure out what multiplies to 4 times 15, which is 60, and adds to 17, which would be 12 and 5. So now I can split this 17x up into 4x squared plus 12x plus 5x plus 15 equals 0. Now I have four terms, so I can factor by grouping. The GCF of 4x squared plus 12x would be 4x. And then I'm left with x plus 3. And then the GCF of 5x plus 15 is 5. And I'm left with x plus 3. And then I have my common binomials that I can factor out. So my two binomials are 4x plus 5 and x plus 3. Okay, so let's look at our steps. I set it equal to 0, and then I just factored it. And then my last step is to set each factor equal to 0. So let's start with 4x plus 5. I need to set that equal to 0. I'm running out of space, so I'm going to do it over here. 4x plus 5 equals 0. We would subtract 5 and get 4x equals negative 5, and then divide by 4. So x is negative 5/4 for the first solution. And then the second factor was x plus 3. So if I set x plus 3 equal to 0, all I do is subtract 3, and I get that x equals -3. So I have my two solutions, -5/4 and -3. So my answer is x equals -3 and -5/4.